What's up, YouTube world? I'm Michael Tavon, and I'm back with another video. This one is going to be more raw, unscripted, pretty much off the dome, because this is a subject that really touches my heart. And I also wanted to address it because practically everyone in the Michael Jackson community, or all Michael Jackson fans, have been challenged by someone I respect within the community and their content. His name is Mr. DJ. I will tag him in the comments or the description below, just to let y'all know if y'all don't know who he is. But he pretty much said that there's so many people who have been benefiting off of Michael Jackson's name, good and or bad, by making content regarding Michael Jackson's legacy and his music. A lot of people are very divisive. A lot of people are argumentative. Some people are toxic. But even if they're not a part of that crowd and you're someone who, like myself, make music, I mean, not music, but content to celebrate his music, his likeness, to create conversation around his legacy, or make reviews about his music or the movies, but never address these negative narratives around his name to defend him, because he's no longer here to defend himself. And he practically said, if you're a fan of MJ, you definitely have to go hard. You have to be a soldier. And personally, I've always thought, that's not my lane. So many people, especially from the legal side of things, are able to articulate themselves much more eloquently than I am when it comes to the legal stuff, because this is not my lane. But when it comes to stuff like these allegations that Michael Jackson's name has been put under, I am a firm believer that Michael Jackson has always been innocent. And I have done the research. I have read the literature and all the transcripts, and nothing aligns with Michael Jackson being guilty. And I will explain why. And also, furthermore, I've always been a pop culture junkie. From every celebrity trial to every celebrity death, I've done so much extensive research, and I've been like that since I was like 10 years old. Like, I've been obsessed with celebrity culture, pop culture, biopics. Like, I don't know why, but I've always been fascinated with the history of like the Hollywood lore. So I think that's relevant context to add to this video before I get into it. But I didn't want to address this whole Casio situation because I didn't want to shed more light on it, because quite honestly, I watched the entire thing when it first dropped, the 60-minute Australia documentary, and I didn't think it was going to get a lot of steam. But when I checked back later that night, that shit had over 800,000 views. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's going to die again. But I feel like this thing is actually building more steam, especially when I see on social media. Once I start seeing people post about it on social media, I'm like, yeah, this is something that we have to talk about. Because at this point, it's exhausting how people are able to create whatever narrative they want without any type of physical evidence and drag someone's name through the mud. And like I said, I've never believed he actually did anything ever wrong. And I'm gonna break it down. So this is edited and is like fully emotional. I'm trying to like not get too emotional when I talk about it. So I'm gonna frame this by saying, when I first saw the Leaving Neverland featuring Wade and James, now I knew who Wade was. If you're a fan of MJ, you obviously would know who he is. Huge part of the family. And even after Michael's death, he literally tied his entire livelihood on Michael's name. So when he came out with these accusations, I was kind of like, like, I rose an eyebrow, and I was a little afraid at first. I remember I was like, damn, what if the shit is like, it could be true? And this was before I actually fact checked Leaving Neverland. And even my wife like told me, just keep everything in perspective, keep it cool, and just wait until the facts come out. Because once again, just like James and Wade, the Arvizios and the Casios, they never provide any proof. And not only they don't provide proof, everything they said in all of their testimonies or their documentaries can always be disbarred in some way, shape, or form, whether there's inconsistencies with the dates, timelines, ages. And it really is disgusting, because there's so many people out there that'll be like, well, how many people can really lie on one person? Why so many people would lie on Michael Jackson's name? Because it's easy, especially when you're dead. One thing I definitely learned in the past 2 years, no legal team or estate can file defamation for a celebrity that is dead, unfortunately. So therefore, if a celebrity is dead, they cannot defend themselves. Neither can their legal team. You can't file any defamation. You can file a reverse, what is it called? the people who are accusing the celebrity of doing something like a sexual abuse crime or physical abuse crime, if they're suing them, the only thing that the estate can do is countersue and fight in court. But what I did learn about this Casio situation is that, I think it was a smart move that right before the film, like in mid-production, the estate decided, we're just going to agree to a settlement with the Casio family so they can shut up. We don't need any bad press, even though they don't have any base for the things that they're claiming that MJ did to them. We're just going to go ahead and give them the money, because the money we're going to make, that's going to be pennies compared to what they're paying them. But unfortunately, the Casios, who are known scammers, and I'm going to get into once again, with these people who all have claimed that Michael have done something, sometimes you got to look at the who and the why, more so than the accusations. And I'm gonna put this to the side. To the people who have suffered any type of sexual abuse as a child or an adult, this is not about you guys, because I understand that so many people are going to say, well, you can't excuse, the behavior of a celebrity just because they're a celebrity, and if they did it, they did it. But I feel like if you are a survivor of said abuse, you should be able to know when someone is lying about being abused. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Because I feel like, and I'm not a body language expert, but with these people, I've seen one thing that's very consistent. They don't have a soul behind their eyes. It just doesn't look like they're telling a story that they believe is true. The same thing with James, the same thing with Wade, same thing with the Arvizios, same thing with the Casios. And all of them have never provided any physical evidence of what Michael Jackson actually looked like. Because to me, if he assaulted all of these kids, all around at the same time, which doesn't make sense. How come none of them can provide a physical, like an accurate physical depiction of what he looked like nude? We'll get back to that. But it's just heartbreaking to see that, me as a fan of Michael, there's always been like this small inkling in the back of my head, like, what if one day something can be true? And I feel like that would really shape and rewire everything I've been about my entire life, because when I think about everything that's good in the world, MJ is a part of it. And if I believe that he's done anything that was wrong to children, that would really F me up in so many ways. So that's why I am so diligent when it comes to talking about this, because I am careful about how I word things and how I want to be perceived to the people who have survived abuse, and don't want to offend them in any way. But I feel like people who have survived abuse, especially by adults, whether sexually, physically, you should be offended when someone comes up with fake accusations, because we already live in a world where a lot of people are like, well, we can't believe everyone, right? We can't believe everybody because people lie. And then on the other end, there are people who have done these terrible crimes against other people and children, and they get away with it. So as a victim and as a survivor, where do you stand? Because on one end, you're like, if I speak up, this person can still get away with it. It doesn't even matter. But on this end, you have, well, if I speak up, people are going to think I'm lying. So when it comes to Michael Jackson, no matter how you feel about it, I just feel like you should really know the facts and know that when people are lying about it, because you yourself have survived it. And if this offends you, and if you somehow believe that MJ did it based on what these people have said, just because if they say, I can make up any story I want to on the internet, doesn't mean it's true, right? I could say I had sex with Beyonce. Come up with a very elaborate story too. Will y'all believe that? I can. Like, I can create a story about, I had a threesome with Vanessa Hudgens and Selena Gomez in 2011 when they were filming Spring Breakers in St. Petersburg, Florida, on St. Petersburg Beach, right across the street where I was working on the same exact day. I can come out and say that I clocked off of work, went to the hotel room that I knew they were living at, not living, but filming from, and also staying at, and found a way to meet them. I can come up with an elaborate story. Would y'all believe that? So at the end of the day, we can't get into the business of just believing anybody who says anything. But that was a tangent I went on. But back to my point of when people are making accusations about Michael Jackson, you got to look at the who and the why. Even we can go back to his former housekeeper who claimed that, oh, Michael Jackson did so many terrible things. He had Vaseline just everywhere. Everywhere you went on the park, he had Vaseline. In every room, he had Vaseline. He just had it out in the open everywhere. And once again, look at the who. Who is this woman? A woman who got fired years ago for stealing and selling Michael Jackson's personal items, whether they were memorabilia, whether it was personal drawings, things that he collected, and she sold them. She got fired, and still to this day, she owes the estate millions of dollars. She's someone who got fired and owes them money. Now she wants to sue them, countersue them, and claim it that there was evidence of him having lube or lubricants everywhere. Now, keyword, evidence. Now let's go to the FBI. Before I even get to this documentary, right? The FBI, one thing I've learned when I studied all of these celebrity cases and their involvement with the FBI, one thing that's always been consistent is that if there has ever been any type of incriminating evidence to find on a celebrity regarding the things that they were accused of, it will be found, and it has been found 100% of the time. We're talking about Bill Cosby, Epstein, Weinstein, Diddy, most notably, most recently, R. Kelly, O.J. Simpson. Every single one of them had incriminating evidence found on their properties. But how come when it comes to Michael Jackson, that fact is thrown away and y'all automatically assume what is said about him is true? Then there's this website, michaeljacksonwasguilty.com, to prove that Michael Jackson was guilty. And the thing that people use the most when it comes to Michael Jackson's guilt is that, well, you know, the FBI did find this book of pornography of children, of children being shirtless or naked. And that's not, one, that part isn't true. Two, what was also true about this so-called book what is found, it is still being sold on Amazon. You can look it up right now. And if it's so illegal, why would it be sold? Secondly, it was proven that it was also a gift from someone who sent it to him. 2, 3, there was never any fingerprints of Michael Jackson's found, or anyone else's for that matter, found on that book. See, a lot of people don't know that MJ was a hoarder, had a terrible habit. So they found it in a room full of stuff that he practically never touched. Most of it was gifts, some of the stuff that he bought, but he didn't touch. You know, he had someone else grab the materials for him and he put it in a room and never touched it. So 1, 2, then there's evidence of him owning pornography like every straight man or man for that matter in the history of life. And I find that hilarious because some people were like, well, in the Arvizio case, the children's fingerprints were found on his pornography or a couple of tapes. And once again, the FBI found that inadmissible to use in the court because that doesn't prove that Michael distributed that porn to those children. Now, let me explain why this makes sense. This makes perfect sense to me because I was once a kid and I was a nosy kid. And trust me, I had access to porn every single where before even the internet. I was like 12 years old, between the ages of 12 and 14 when computers were still fairly new and like at home use. People were still watching porn on DVDs and VHSs. Now, the first time I was really exposed to porn was my cousin who's 1 year older than me, and his parents own a huge collection, which they hid in a trunk in their closet. But it was easily accessible. Now, if you were to go to his parents, through their old collection, you would find our fingerprints on it, but not one time they gave us a tape. Not a single time. Same thing with my father. I would go to my dad's house. He had DVDs everywhere, but separate in another case in his room. That's where the booty tapes were. I found them. Every single time I would find them, he would hide them. And I would find them again. No matter what, I was a teenage kid and I wanted to see booty, and that's what I did. Like, it was so easy for me to find porn all the time. That doesn't mean my dad let me watch it. He tried to hide it. And then in another case, when my family, me, my mom, and my sisters, we moved in with my grandmother when I was in high school, and I had to share a room with my older cousin. He's like 8 years older than me. So when I was 15 and he was like 23 or something like that, but he was rarely home. But in his closet, he had like so many shoe boxes of CDs, DVDs, other stuff that I wasn't supposed to see. Guess what? My hands were in that every single time. And he would know because I would literally have it in the DVD player sometimes. And he would tell me or my mom, like, hey, man, can you tell him to stop touching my stuff? And my logic is, if it's right there, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to watch it. I am a kid. I'm going to watch it. So once again, these are 3 instances in my personal life where I was able to access porn easily without the consent of the adults around me. Now, mind you, back to MJ. It was also shown that he hid his pornography in a locked case. So the only thing that tells me is that he knew that these kids accessed these porn tapes at one point, and he decided to lock them away because these kids were snooping around places they had no business snooping. Once again, that does not prove that he gave them access to it. And you could try to be contrarian or devil's advocate and say, well, he probably did, but once the FBI got involved, he was able to find that loophole. Like, once again, me personally, I was able to find porn all the time, everywhere, when it came to the adults around me. They couldn't hide it from me, no matter what. And it only got worse when computers got into the fray. It only got worse. So, with that being said, there's no proof that he distributed anything to these children. The only proof that they accessed it. And this is not me excusing Michael Jackson or trying to absolve him of any responsibility. Because yeah, if you have pornography around, it's irresponsible to leave it around where children can access it. But once again, as I told you, just said, every single adult that was around me tried to hide it. I just found my way in it. So that's another thing. Okay. So, same thing with Safechuck and Robinson. These Arvizios have given us fully detailed graphic stories of the systemic grooming and the acts that either Michael performed on him or they performed with each other, so to speak. And one thing that really bothers me the most is that, as I said before, no matter how graphic the story you can tell, without any physical evidence, how can I prove that what you're saying is true? I feel like if you are a survivor of abuse, I want you to comment this. Are you able to physically describe what the person looked like naked if you saw them naked at any point? So and if your answer is yes, how come when it comes to these people who are accusing Michael of these things, how come they are incapable of doing that? Sorry, I'm getting shaken up. Like, I'm going to stutter. This is a raw video. I'm not even going to edit it or anything. How come people are just able to say anything, but no one, when it comes to these interviews, are asking them the real questions? What did he look like? Can you give us a descriptive detail of every part of his body, since you guys claim to have seen every part of his body? That's the only thing that's important to me, because giving me a folklore or a story does not mean anything to me anymore. Because we've seen, just recently, we saw an NFL player, if you're not familiar with Stephon Diggs, who recently just played in the Super Bowl. He was accused of sexually assaulting his cook. Now, I would say one thing, it's his fault for even hiring someone you're attracted to. Like, why put yourself in that situation? But for the sake of this whole situation, they went on an entire trial. Comes to find out that she actually lied. Not only did she lie, she does not get punished for it. She's actually on social media, probably right now, dancing around like nothing ever happened. So once again, it's like people are able to make up anything because they know there's no real consequences when people find out that they have lied. You get to go on with your life. You can ruin someone's reputation just by an accusation. and just go on with your life like nothing ever happened. And that's how easy it is to do it with MJ. He's the biggest name in the history of entertainment. He's dead. You can't do nothing about it. I can make up a story about MJ and you can too. And another thing about this, they've shared photos of intimate photos. One, most notably, Michael Jackson holding one of the little one of the Casios, and the kid looks visibly upset. He's shirtless. If you're gonna do that, at least not be fucking lazy with it. Casios, like, how are you going to doctor a photo that has been circulating on the internet for the past 15 years and try to Photoshop it? Once again, people will look at that and think that is real because they don't try their best to even look beyond that specific photo without the kid. The kid does not exist in the photo. He does not. And they was able to, let's put this kid in his lap because Michael's sitting like this. You know, it looks like he was in the middle of something. It's a candid photo. So it is like he was posting. Obviously, he was candid because he has no makeup. He's not dressed. He only has a t-shirt and some pants on. And I remember when it was first posted on Twitter a very long time ago, it was to show like Michael's real struggle with vitiligo at the time because his skin was like very blotchy. And people was like, oh, like we never knew that's what he looked like without makeup. So you have that. And that was a real photo. And he's sitting like this. So in the space where this is at, let's just put one of the kids here and make him look sad and he's shirtless and it looks weird. But if you really look closely, the back of the kid and his skin does not even mesh with his arm. It doesn't even look like it's connected. And even Michael's hand doesn't even look like it's actually touching the kid's arm. And they have plenty of photos throughout this documentary where you're like, bro, do y'all have to really be that fucking lazy? Like, you know Michael Jackson your whole life, so that means you actually have real photos that people probably have never seen before that you could use. But no, let's take some photos that we've seen on the internet and try to incorporate ourselves into it and make it seem like Michael was touching us in an appropriate manner or use a photo that we look sad in or something. It's weird. And the fact that they were only able to do this in Australia because they knew it wouldn't fly in America, that shows you everything you need to know. And mind you, this is the same family, once again, defending Michael Jackson up and down when he was alive. But all of a sudden, after leaving Neverland, I remember that I was abused. I remember. Some of the worst acting we've ever seen. And they could have used a different take if he was going to try. There was multiple times throughout this 60-minute segment that he tried to cry and it just wasn't happening. So that's the balding one I'm talking about, where his story was one of the first ones. And you know, it's so funny when I first watched it, because I'm trying to watch this with an unbiased eye and try to say to see if there's some type of validity to it. So the first story he shares, you know, it's all, you know, we love Michael. It was but the way he had us under his spell was very, you know, systematically, he was able to break us down until the physical abuse started. So I'm like, you know, I'm thinking to myself, all right, cool. And the second brother gets on. Now it's all, you know, Michael, the first time it happened when I was 8, he just pulled my pants down and started giving me oral sex. Okay. Stuff like that, once it goes from no extreme to an extreme, that's where it's like, okay, this is very unbelievable. Very unbelievable. Because it goes from how does he systemically break you down to just, now he's just sucking your penis at 8 years old? Does not make sense. Then another game, the first story, the first brother shared on it. Once again, I'm going to keep misspeaking because I'm like, he shared that Michael was laying on his stomach. It's called the booty bump or something. Like, Michael would lay on his stomach, have the kid lay on top of Michael's back, but his pelvic area was like on Michael's butt, and they would just rumble and would call it the booty rumble. So it's like, hey, the booty rumble, the booty rumble. And, you know, he would frame it as it was a game. And it's funny because stuff like that, from the outside looking in, you can be like, okay, this sounds believable. Like, even though there's no proof that the booty rumble exists, if there was a pedo out there, that's something he probably would do. But this story not only gets more graphic, but more unbelievable as it becomes more graphic. So the sister comes on. Sister says the first time it occurred was when she was 11 years old or 8, something like that. And he takes her to the room and she strips. He makes her strip and he's smelling certain, I'm not going to say it out loud, smelling certain parts, and he starts doing things to himself that he's not supposed to be doing. And from then on, she said it just got worse and worse. And then even within the same breath, she goes, Michael Jackson had a signal that no matter where we were at the time, if he did this, that means it was time for me to go. Now, my first thought immediately was, he did this in front of everybody all the time. So not one person ever thought, why is Michael always singling out my daughter? Because once again, the parents had to have been around, right? Side note, funniest thing about all of these stories from the first one to the end, they always make it seem like Michael Jackson was on this isolated island with all of these kids and the parents were never around and none of his family members were around. I'm gonna get to that part. But so the girl goes, every single time he goes, it was time for me to go. I knew what to do. I knew what time it was. I knew where to go and what to do with him. And we would go back to doing what we were doing before. Now, one thing I've worked with children a lot, and I'm always around children. And one thing I know about kids, if you've ever done anything to a child that made them feel uncomfortable, no matter what it is, they will hold on to that forever, for a very long time. So for me to think that 4 children were able to sustain being abused from childhood all the way to early adulthood and never tell anybody, all 4 of them, and all of them said, we didn't know we were all getting abused at the same time. How is that believable? I can see if it was 1 or 2, but all 4 said they were abused and none of them knew. The parents didn't know and none of the siblings knew the other was getting abused. Tell me, how is that believable? Because once again, children, by and large, if an adult ever made them feel uncomfortable in any type of way, they hold on to that. They will never feel safe around this person. So they're telling me, it's Michael Jackson. I just want to make him happy. He's my idol. At the end of the day, one thing Michael always said that he loved about kids is that they didn't see the celebrity, the hype, or all of that. They just saw the fact that he was a good person and he was really cool and fun to be around. So he had these kids around who just were able to keep quiet because he was a huge celebrity, and they were afraid of disappointing him. They were afraid to ruin his life because he would train, as the Cassios would say, train them to say the right thing at the right time when certain people would ask certain things. It was always, he would pretend to be a cop and he would ask me questions, and so I would know what to say in certain situations. Mind you, even after Michael Jackson died, this entire family had multiple ample opportunities to discuss the fact that if this were true, that he actually did something. And they never did. Mind you, I don't even know which one it was, but there's actually a book called My Friend Michael that details the love and the support that Michael gave their family throughout their entire lives. It's a memoir of their time spent with Michael Jackson. It's currently on Amazon. I'm not even gonna promote it or link it or anything, but it's still being sold on Amazon. So tell me, how does this make sense? Once again, you gotta listen to the who is saying these things and not what they're saying. How are you selling a memoir about the loving, fun times that you spent with Michael Jackson during your childhood, but simultaneously trying to extort money from his estate because he so-called abused you? How is it legal? Mind you, there has to be some type of perjury within that. You published a memoir that says Michael Jackson, and it was a whole thing of Michael loved me so much. He was my best friend. He supported me through. That's the entire book. I've never read it, but that's what I've heard. That it was nothing but praise of Michael Jackson for 200 pages. But you turn around and say that he did something. Then, this is the same family who was sued for actually publishing AI doctored audio of Michael Jackson's vocals. They were selling songs that were actually made by AI and actually hired someone else to sing like Michael Jackson for songs that they could sell. The same family that allegedly sold used underwear of Michael Jackson's. It was never confirmed or denied if they belonged to Michael Jackson. But isn't that fucking weird to you? If someone abused you, why are you keeping their underwear? And why are you selling it? Why do you have anyone's underwear? This doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me. And that's what bothers me the most, is that so many people will rush to believe what is said, but not actually require proof, evidence, over and time again. Once again, like I said, when it comes to the FBI, if there is something to be found that could incriminate you, they will find it 100% of the time. Every single celebrity that has been under any type of FBI surveillance, evidence has been found every single time. Not with Michael. You think he's a smooth criminal like that? Like he could just do that? Because when it comes to the FBI, they will not stop until they find something. They won't stop until they get enough evidence. They won't. They will search every single property that this person's ever been on, ever owned, every single article of clothing that they've touched, every single material that they've worn. Everything will be investigated up and down until they find something. And they didn't. And it's really disappointing because, and another thing. So, if the Casios were being abused from the mid 80s all the way up until the early 2000s, where does their story with the Safe Chucks and the Robinsons really align? Because to me, this is the biggest superstar in the world. How does he have all of this time to just be molesting all of these children? It just doesn't make sense. And mind you, these people always kind of gloss over the fact that they always make it seem like they was just in their own little world with Michael. But that doesn't negate the fact that Michael Jackson had tons of nieces and nephews that always hung around, other celebrity children that always hung around, and their families that he invited into their houses. But they never acknowledged those people. They always make it seem like these people don't exist within the story. Because if this Casio thing is actually true, how come, let's say if it is true, and what Wade and Safe Chuck said are true, how come their stories can't align at the same time if the abuse happened around at the same time? Mind you, both of them always seem to forget that Michael was married to Lisa Marie Presley for what, I believe almost 2 years. And mind you, he also did not live in Neverland during a large period of time. He was on tour. He was either in tour. He also lived in New York for some time, and he was married. So during these times that from 93 to say like 96, where these people are saying that he actually did the most sexual abuse, you would think there would be a lot more evidence, or any evidence at all. But Lisa Marie never said anything that he did anything. Well, he was married for a while. And I think a woman would actually, especially coming, from the family she's from, she would say like there was some weird stuff going on, but she never said anything about that regarding Michael, anything negative. And that's just, I just don't believe it. And honestly, this is just sad because I know Michael spent his entire life trying to separate himself from his family and trying to create a family of his own. But, looking back at it, sometimes I feel like he maybe should have stayed with the family. I know his family ruined him in so many different ways, but I think there were ways that the family would have protected him that a lot of the stuff never would have even happened. I don't think, if Michael was still close to his family, the Casios wouldn't have happened. The Arvizios wouldn't have happened. And the Chandlers wouldn't have happened. Just simply because he would have had his family that it really breaks my heart, because it's so easy to take advantage of someone like MJ and his name. And we shouldn't really be quiet when it comes to that, because it's just, It's really sick, right? And I think I've said everything I needed to say. And for the people who have suffered and survived abuse in any type of way, I honestly do want to hear your opinions on it. Do you believe MJ is guilty? Do you believe his accusers? Do you believe these stories? Because someone did say before, at the end of the day, whether you believe someone's innocent or guilty, the only people who know the truth are God and the people involved. But I truly, with all my heart, believe that MJ has always been innocent and will always be. And that's all I got to say. Oh, matter of fact, premature send off. There was another thing in this documentary that I wanted to point out. Once again, it gets really graphic. And one of the brothers claimed that out of nowhere, MJ started drinking his urine. Now tell me, how does that make sense? Now, this is this is not even just abuse. This is some real demonic, ritualistic type of deal. You're talking about the guy who was so adamant and against eating pasta. He did not like the way pasta felt. He hated pasta. He was afraid of pasta. But he can drink someone's pee. He didn't like to eat chocolate. He hated chocolate. But he can drink pee to prove that he loves somebody. Just, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Tell me, how does that make sense to you? Now watch the whole 60-minute with an open mind, hoping that if one thing, not hoping, but in my head, I'm thinking if one thing sticks to me, I would be completely honest about it, even as a super fan. Because it does get to a point where it's like, okay, if there's too many people accusing you of one thing, and it gets pretty crazy. But when all of these people have been consistently known as scammers in some way, shape, or form, people who wanted more from Michael that they couldn't get, dating back to the first case, to the Arvizios, until Wade, until now. Tell me why that every single other child, from his nephews, nieces, all the celebrity children, Corey Feldman, who will up and down will die on the hill that MJ is innocent, because when he actually went to the police to report the people who actually touched him, he says adamantly all the time that they were never interested in real names. They kept asking about Michael and if he did anything. And when he would say Michael never did anything to him, the case was never opened and no one ever cared about any other name but Michael. That alone should tell you everything you need to know. I just don't understand it. That should tell you everything you need to know. From Macaulay, from every other child, from Aaron Carter, all these kids have suffered some type of abuse in this industry by the hands of other celebrities. But when they tell people, authorities, I've been abused by this person, they don't care because it's not Michael Jackson. The authorities never cared about abuse. They just cared about who's doing it. And if it's not Michael Jackson, they don't care. That's why Diddy was able to run amok. That's why Epstein was able to run amok. That's why Weinstein was able to run amok. That's why Dan Snyder was able to run amok. That's why R. Kelly, all of them have been able to get away with doing what they did for so long. And granted, the system waited for the perfect time to strike when it came to all of these celebrities 30 years later to actually hold them accountable for the shit that they did. But they waited until they had dozens of victims. But they were able to get away with it because this whole time they wanted to frame Michael. And that's all I got, bro. Yeah.